I'm reading the third part of my chapter called The Picnic. And if you remember, we were very worried about Terry. We were playing hide and seek. We couldn't find him. And I was very worried about the moat that was round the island. And we know that once a little girl had drowned in it. That little girl was called Isabel. "You two go that way and I'll go this way," said Wendy. And so we set off, scrambling through the brambles and rotten tree trunks till we were all scratched and bleeding. But soon we had gone all round the island and we met up again, and still we had not found Terry. We were tired now and fed up with that hide and seek game. "Come out, Terry, you have won," we shouted, slumping against the old walnut tree. "We can't find you. Come out now, Terry." But he didn't come out, and there was no answer. "Terry, please come out of hiding, please," we shouted. We were getting worried now and desperate. "Terry, Terry," we yelled, but there was no answer, just a lapping of black water as the wind got up and made little waves in the moat all around us. We searched again together, shouting, but he was nowhere to be found. Maybe he had fallen in that deadly moat and drowned like little Isabel. Maybe we would see his body floating any minute now in the moat. Frantically I ran to look, and sure enough there was something floating by. Something black and soaking wet. Was it a body? Was it Terry's body? Was it Terry, who would never be first again and never do great big belches that made us all laugh so much? Well, no, it wasn't Terry's body. It was a log that had come floating by. "Terry," I bargained in my head, "if you are safe, you can always be the best belcher, and I will not try to be better than you at things. Please be safe. Please, please," I bargained. I pleaded as we split up again to walk round and try to find him. I was at the old brick bridge now, and I held on to the padlocked gate. Rusty chains clanked and wouldn't let me through. And it was then that I saw something very frightening. There they were on the bank in the grass near the reeds. They were Terry's wellies. His Wellingtons were standing there just by themselves, and Terry was nowhere to be seen. Gwendy and Stewie rushed over now, and we all stood there staring at the wellies. Then we saw a ripple coming to the surface of the water, and then a great big loud noise came through from below under the old bridge. That ripple changed into a whirlpool, and then, like a belch from a belly, Terry exploded from the moat. His hair was streaming over his face, and his mouth was wide open to gulp, gulp at the air. He gulped and gulped, and then he pulled on a branch and dragged himself out and flopped like a drowned Isabel next to us. Except that he wasn't dead. He was full of life. "Fooled you! I hid in the water," he laughed. "And when I heard you coming, I clung to a branch and held my breath and went under and counted to 100. I bet you thought I was dead." We were so pleased that he wasn't dead that we laughed and laughed, though I didn't think that it was very funny, because I'd been so scared that Terry had been plucked by that gardener in heaven that had plucked Isabel and taken her away. Then we all tried to do big belches again, but I remembered what my promise was, and so I didn't try too hard, and Terry won the competition, as he always did. We scrambled over the fallen tree and ran back over the field to pick up my bike. We were on our way home, but Terry said he didn't want to go on a girl's bike after all, and that he was the winner of the hide and seek. So he ran, and he ran round and round to dry his clothes. And I got an extra go on my bike, and I pedalled past him, and I rang my bell furiously as I did. We were looking forward to seeing Bonnie again, and getting back and playing with her like we always did. It was then I remembered my promise to bring something for her from our picnic. But of course, I'd forgotten about her once we got on our way. And we'd eaten all the picnic. There was nothing left for her. But never mind, I thought I'd play with a bit longer tonight to make up. But we didn't play with Bonnie that night. You see, I went next door to find her, and there was only Grandma sitting silently, staring at the fire. So I ran back to our house and looked inside, and Bonnie wasn't there either. I ran to our stackyard, like the one behind where we used to play, and Bonnie wasn't there either. I couldn't find her anywhere, but what I did see on the cobbles of our stackyard was a big round puddle of black blood drying up. Mam told us what had happened. You see, Bonnie had not gone back into our house after we had set off. She must have felt lonely, like when you play hide and seek and you can't find anybody. And so she had gone off to our stackyard by herself to play. She played the games we normally played, and she must have climbed the bales like we used to do. We never knew any more about that accident, but we do know that Auntie Vera found her unconscious on the cobble. She picked up that limp body and ran. "Call an ambulance," she screamed, racing into their house to lay Bonnie down on their couch and wash her wound. But her wound was so big it couldn't be washed away, and Grandma said they could see Bonnie's skull coming through her hair that had gone dark and limp. When she heard the cry for help, Mam raced through the door and went to telephone at Grandma's and rang for an ambulance. Bonnie was rushed to hospital in Hull and then rushed to the theatre, not knowing anything about the man who was the surgeon who came out to meet her, and not feeling that awful mask put over her face to make her go to sleep for a long time. And now all we had to do was wait and wait and wait. We didn't know what else to do. I didn't even care about my what I am good at list, because I was very frightened now that Bonnie would go to that gardener. I was frightened that he was reaching out for Bonnie, for his heavenly bower, and she was lifting her arms to be carried away by him and join Isabel in heaven. She would be gone, just like Isabel. I could not bear it. What if I never saw Bonnie again and had to go to her grave in Gum Churchyard and see those stone flowers instead of her pretty face? I longed to go and see her, but no one was allowed. All we could do was pray and wait, while Auntie Vera and Uncle Sid sat by her bedside waiting for a miracle. And then one day, the miracle happened. Bonnie opened her eyes and held out her arms to her mum and dad. She was going to be full of life again. And I could go and play with her once more if I went very, very quietly. And do you know what she said as soon as I saw her? She said, "What did you bring me from your picnic?" Well, that was ages ago, but she'd remembered what I'd promised. And of course, as you know, I hadn't brought anything back. I'd forgotten all about her and eaten everything up. She started to cry. And I had a good idea. And I ran back to get my charm bracelet. And I let her wear it for one whole day. And then I promised that I would not go on a picnic again. Even when she was old enough, I would never leave her behind anymore. If it meant carrying her, then I would do that, but she would never be left behind again. And I told her that, and it cheered her up. But I didn't go back to Gum Church for a picnic for a long, long time anyway. I didn't want to look at another grave just yet. And I didn't want to think about dead people anymore, because I kept thinking how Bonnie had nearly been plucked by the gardener for heaven. And I just wanted to play with her all day at home, just like we always used to.